This is going to be a quick start guide to them's fighting herds for people who are familiar with fighting games. I'll go over the basics of the mechanics to get you in as quickly as possible. If you are a new player and don't understand something, please head into tutorial mode, where everything is explained with practical examples. The first thing I'll go over is probably the most important thing that makes this unique from other fighting games. Underneath Arizona's health bar, you'll see a black bar. That is her juggled decay meter. As I land hits, you'll see that it fills with green. Once it is full, the hit sparks will turn red. The red hit sparks indicate that the meter is full. That way you don't have to stare at the meter the entire time. Three things happen when that meter is full. First, gravity starts increasing with every hit. They will eventually fall out of your combo as soon as they touch the ground. They'll be able to tech. Second, meter gain is reversed. If you'll watch this example, watch the bars at the bottom. You'll notice on those last few hits that she began to get more meter per hit than I did. That's because the meter gain is completely reversed. So the longer your combo, the more meter you will give them. Third, all knockdowns become soft knockdowns unless you use a super. For example, that's a hard knockdown. The character cannot move. Arizona is set to tech forward when possible. As you can see, she was able to tech roll out of the previous hard knockdown. They will not be able to tech roll if you end with a super. One more important note about JD is that the initial hit is typically subtractive. So if you'll see under Tianhuo is where the JD meter is actually tracked in training mode. It's a 0 to 330 bar, right? As you can see, it fills up when I start hitting. But the first hit is typically subtractive, so that went to negative 110. In general, harder, slower hits reduce the JD meter on the first hit more. So if you start your combo with a heavy, you'll get a longer combo. The next thing to cover is meter. Meter works like it does in basically every fighting game. You can store up to 3, you can spend those meters on supers. There are no EX moves in this game, but there is one move that burns meter that isn't a super. I'll cover that in the blocking section. The other meter that you see above the super meter is called the magic meter. This meter is different in every way per character. Different color, different number of bars, different way to fill it, and different way to spend it. This is essentially the drive mechanic if you're familiar with Blaze Blue. I'm not going to cover every character in detail here. I'll do a separate video that overviews each character and explains that, but in general just know that the magic meter is a huge part of your character's kit. This game also includes teching. Essentially, if you aren't hit with a hard knockdown, you can tech out. Air teching works like it does in basically every game, with forward, neutral, and back. On the ground, however, things change just a little bit. You can forward, neutral, or back tech on the ground. When you do this, you roll, and that roll is invincible. You cannot tech from a hard knockdown. Juggle Decay gives two schools of thought. If you really want that set play, you can end your combos in a hard knockdown without filling the Juggle Decay meter and get the best Oki. They can't do anything but neutral tech. If you want maximum damage, you'll throw in the longest combo you can, but you have to be prepared to tech chase. There's plenty of options for tech chasing. Generally, most people go for the longest combo they can and just tech chase. But the option is there if you want that Oki. As I said before in the Juggle Decay section, you cannot tech out of supers. Once you hit the ground from a super, you're just going to hard knock down. Next up, we have Negative Edge. Some of you may be familiar with it and some of you may not be. Not every game includes Negative Edge, but essentially Negative Edge is the concept that releasing a button also counts as pressing the button. This game has Negative Edge for every special. you can do your normal where you just press the button, right? But you can also hit a normal, do the special input, and release the button from the normal, and the special will still come out. It's not something that everyone's going to be able to take advantage of, but the option is there if you want some very, very fast inputs. The game also has a pretty generous buffer for movement. So for example, my character can forward dash. I can also dash by pushing 6, 2, 3, 6. The cool part of that is I can do 6, 2, 3, 6 to buffer a special at the end of that dash. For my character specifically, she can dash under most projectiles, and her B236 is projectile invuln. So this can cover a lot of ground while being completely projectile invulnerable. Now I'll go over your blocking options. There's obviously regular block in the game like every other fighting game. This game also features push block. Unlike most games that I've played at least, push block requires no resources. You can do it infinitely if you want to. As you can see. The game also has perfect block. If you block the second that you're going to get hit, it will reduce your hit stun and increase the meter you gain from blocking the attack. This game also has a mechanic called cross canter. Those of you familiar with Street Fighter V will know it as a V reversal. Essentially, you can burn half a meter to counterattack while you're in block stun. This requires you to push forward and 2 attack buttons at the same time, and you will counterattack like that. During this, you are strike invulnerable, but you can be grabbed. Be aware. Alright, the next thing is really short. Grabs. There's 2 basic grabs. You use a grab with B and C. Like this. It varies from character to character on whether or not you can combo afterwards, but they're pretty useful. They don't add to the juggle decay meter, but they do add their own brand of damage scaling, so be aware. The 2 types of grabs are the green grab, which is your basic grab, and the red grab, which happens when you grab someone in a counter. So I had Arizona set to do a heavy, I grabbed her in the middle of the heavy. Or if you grab them out of a roll. A red grab cannot be teched. If you get red grabbed, you just gotta sit there and watch what happens. And that's pretty much all you need to know to get started. I encourage anyone who wants more information to hit the tutorials. They are very in-depth and very good. But this game has a lot of depth, even if it only has 6 characters. A lot of varying ways you can play the game. I highly recommend it to literally anyone who likes fighting games. Especially since the netcode is baller.